Hey everyone, Diablo 4 open beta is happening this weekend, and I wanted to share with you a suggestion for a barbarian build. If you want to just key up on the big guy and have all the little guys kill themselves on your thorns, then this is the build to check out. I'm going to go over pretty much everything for the build that we could glean out of the last weekend of beta. Covering what you need and what you don't need on your armor, the skill tree progression, and item aspects. So let me just tap play on that so this plays in the background. What you need on your armor, particularly thorns for sure. You also want maximum life, and I'll get into that why in a little bit. You also want eventually sockets. You can go to the jeweler at level 20 to get sockets on your gear, and you're going to be putting in emeralds for thorns or rubies for life. Good to have on your rolls on your items are attack speed. That's kind of nice. It's going to help you with your rend later on. Also, you want to look at either a +1 to defense for rallying cry and ground stomp in particular, or +1 to all brawling skills, or +1 to weapon mastery, particularly for like a death blow. Plus rend skill is also a good bonus to get because we're doing thorns and we're doing bleed. Okay on your gear is strength, maybe some damage versus close or range, stuff like that. Not super important though. And the things you don't need is everything else. Bleeds can't crit, thorns can't crit. So just, you don't have to focus on any of that stuff if you do the two of them in combination. For the skill tree, we're going to pull up our handy dandy build calculator. The first thing we're going to take is Flay. That's going to get you your fury generation and put a little bit of bleed on whoever you're hitting. It's a single target attack. You're going to follow that with enhanced Flay, and really, that puts some vulnerability on the enemy. That means they take 20% more damage. But really, that gets you to combat Flay, which is what starts the Thorns build rolling. So in 3 quick skill points, you can already be stacking Thorns on your character. Like I said, you key up on a big guy if there's a big guy, and all the little chumpies around you will kill themselves on your Thorns. Let me move that over so you can maybe watch a little bit more of that background action. Following those points, we're then going to get to our core skills, and we're going to put 1 point into rend. That's going to get your area effect cleave happening. You just cleave everything in front of you, throws a big bleed on them, followed by enhanced rend, which extends the duration of the vulnerability we mentioned earlier, and furious rend, which gives you back 20 fury, which can cover more than half of the initial rend cost to begin with. So down the road, it allows you to just rend, repeatedly. The next set of points we're going to do, we're going to put 3 into outburst. Outburst gives you just flat out, let me move this over a little bit, gives you just flat out thorns on your character. And you get X amount of thorns for every X amount of maximum life you get. This is why I was talking about getting maximum life rolls on your gear, because eventually they will equate to being thorns. Now, following Outburst, we're going to put a point into Challenging Shout, and this will give you an AoE taunt, and will give you 40% damage reduction. And I would say that you could, if you feel like you need a little bit toughness early on, like you're not tanky enough yet, you could maybe do 1 point into Outburst and then get Challenging Shout for the damage reduction, and then go back to Outburst. But it's up to you and how comfortable you feel, how survivable you feel at the time. For the most damage potential, you go 3 points into Outburst first. But to continue, Challenging Shout, Enhanced Challenging Shout, which gives you a 20% maximum life boost. And again, since you have Outburst, that gives you more thorns, followed by Strategic Challenging Shout, which gives you thorns equal to 50% of your maximum life. So And since you got a boost from your life from Enhanced Challenging Shout, you're looking for life on gear, you're just getting a lot of thorns. Like I was up to 500 or 600 health in the last weekend's beta, and that means I was getting another 300 or so in additional thorns on top of the 400 thorns I was just walking around with on my gear. So it's pretty awesome. After that, you're going to put points into Tough as Nails. All 3 points, it's going to increase your thorns by 60%. It also puts a little bit of a bleed on the enemies, so additional damage is nice. But the 60% boost jacks your thorns up even more. And Imposing Presence, that's another passive we're going to pick up. 15% maximum life, which means because of Outburst, more thorns. And also means because of Strategic Challenging Shout, right? More thorns again. This is all about stacking hell of a lot of thorns. I mean, you can kind of see the video clip that's rolling in the background where a lot of the minions are just killing themselves off while I am focusing on, putting bleeds and whatnot on the big guy. After we do this defensive area of the tree, we're going to go down into Brawling, and we're going to put 1 point into Warcry and 1 point into Enhanced Warcry. And the reason for this is guaranteed Berserking. Berserking is going to give you a movement speed buff and is going to give you a 25% damage buff. So that plus the Warcry itself means a 40% damage boost, particularly good for the Rend, applying big bleeds on the bosses and whatnot. Now, it's a little bit dependent on what gear rolls you have. We haven't talked about aspects yet, and I will in a moment, but I would say the Warcry is potentially optional. I took it because of the rolls I had on my gear, and because getting that Berserking, that guaranteed Berserking, I had a couple aspects that benefited from it. Your gameplay might vary a little bit. Additionally, the next 3 points we're going to spend are also kind of optional. I would either put them into Rend to keep stacking Rend up. You'll, up to 4 points at that point. It'll just make your bleed that much more sick when you're dropping them on bosses or when you're clearing out all the minions. It'll make it that much more amazing. Optionally, you could put points into Death Blow and Enhanced Death Blow. Death Blow is going to do a small area in front of you, lots of damage. And if it kills anything with that Death Blow, it resets. You get to Death Blow again. So that's really sweet for taking dudes down. Enhanced Death Blow doubles the damage to bosses. So even if you're one-on-one, versus a boss, it'll still give you a really heavy hit to damage the boss with. So those points are optional. You can either throw them all into Rend, or you can do a couple less points into Rend, play around with Death Blow, Enhanced Death Blow. It may be a skill that you only slot in when you're fighting a boss, stuff like that. But that brings us to our ultimate ability, and for me, it was Call of the Ancients. The reason why is simply that when selecting the ultimate ability, mousing over the tooltip, the damage numbers just looked better. And then when I tried them out in gameplay, Call of the Ancients just felt better. Your mileage may vary, obviously. Feel free to try them all out. So Call of the Ancients, followed by Prime Call of the Ancients, that gives you an attack speed bonus so you can flay and rend that much faster and increase damage. And then Supreme Call of the Ancients, which gives you a lot. A slow, a stun, and a bunch of fury. Now, if you look at the top, you'll see, it's level 27. You're going to get skill points, additional skill points from going around, exploring, trying to find all the altars of Lilith. You will pick up a couple more skill points than the level 25 cap that you get to. And I have another video with a leveling overview that discusses all that if you want to check it out. And a quick note before the next part, remember, you can swap your skill points all the way up to level 15 for free. So play around with it. Adapt the build to your play style. It's not expensive to do, even after level 15. And then the next thing, the last thing really we want to cover is item aspects. I've highlighted in the build that I have here, that the link is down in the description, a lot of the key aspects that are either great for the build or even good for the build. A couple special call outs are Needle Flare, which is going to give you an AoE Thorns explosion, so that when Thorns gets applied, there's a chance it applies to everyone around you. That's that one. The other one that I had as a roll on one of my rings is Bold Chieftain. Bold Chieftain, this is the reason why I was talking about shouts earlier, and why I tended to pick them. Bold Chieftain gives you a chance to effectively reduce the cooldown of your shouts by 50%. And what that means is when we're looking at challenging shout, for example, it's got a 25-second cooldown and lasts for 8 seconds. When you have 4 or 5 enemies around you and you do challenging shout with the Bold Chieftain aspect on one of your items, now your cooldown's only 12 seconds. So you'll have 8 seconds of uptime, 4 seconds of downtime, and then you can start your shouting again. For my character, because I had this aspect, I ended up, gravitating towards lots of shouts. I wish I could have fit more shouts on my bar, really, as the game progressed. You have 6 slots, just as a reminder too, 6 slots for skills. You can swap them around during play. You can swap them around in combat. You just have to be mindful when you do that as to whether or not they're on cooldown or not. There's a few other honorable mentions as far as things go. I mean, there's Death Wish, which gives you Thorns while you're berserking. If you have a guaranteed berserk from Warcry, then you have guaranteed Thorns while you're berserking. Quickening Pulse gives you a cooldown reduction. It's not on this list, but they're not completely comprehensive. Slaking Thirst gives you some fury. Anemia gives you a chance to stun, etc., etc. One last thing to mention is the Weak Iron Barb Elixir. You can find these or acquire them, and this elixir in particular gives you, I think it's attack speed, it's definitely experience, and it's definitely 50 Thorns. So it's another good way to shore up your Thorns, give you an extra boost, and really sort of lead you toward min-maxing your build. The build that I played, I was up to, and I'll just want to share with you a quick screenshot from the build. I was up to over 1,000 Thorns once I had all of my cooldowns popping. Just to be clear about it too, these 2 hits here, I don't know, I want to make sure you can see them. So those 952s, that's Thorns proccing on enemies in melee. This 1,092 over here is Thorns proccing on a caster and taking him out, who hit me with a caster bolt. So melee, ranged attacks, and even ranged spells that hit you can all proc Thorns. This makes it super easy for you to run around the map, just wailing on things, letting things kill themselves on you, and in my opinion, just having a good old time. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tap that like button, touch the monkey, and subscribe. And I'll see you later. Thanks.